Welcome, welcome, welcome to today's episode of Legal Scrubs. Today I'm going to be focusing on HIPAA, and in particular how HIPAA relates to day-to-day practices of dental offices and dentists. And I'm going to do this in the context of a published notice that came out earlier this week from HHS and its Office for Civil Rights, which is the enforcement arm of HHS with respect to HIPAA. And what this particular notice went out about was that OCR, or the Office for Civil Rights, had entered into a resolution agreement with a dental practice in Dallas, Texas, pertaining to an alleged violation of HIPAA. So I want to talk a little bit about the facts of this particular case and what the takeaways that you in your dental practice can get from what happened here, and so you make sure that what happened here doesn't happen to you. So here are the basic facts as reported in the published resolution agreement and in the corrective action plan that HHS published earlier this week on this matter. There's a dental practice in Dallas, Texas called Elite Dental Associates Dallas PC. It's a general, implant, and cosmetic dentistry practice. And back some time ago, probably I think it's around 3 years ago, one of the patients of the dental practice posted a review on Yelp, the online review database or platform, and it was apparently not a good review, and what the dental practice did in response to that review is it responded first, and in response posted or put online some personally or individually identifiable protected health information of the patient. In this case, the last name of the patient, the treatment plan for the patient, and insurance and cost information for the treatment plan that the patient had. And the patient complained to HHS and its Office for Civil Rights because of this alleged violation of HIPAA. The violation, or the alleged violation, being that the dental practice had responded to the patient's online review on Yelp by putting online individually identifiable protected health information. So OCR investigated. They determined that not only did what the patient complained of happen in this particular case, but they found some other instances where the practice had responded to online reviews as well, in a way that appears to have been problematic under HIPAA. And so the parties had going through this investigation, the parties got to the point where they entered into this resolution agreement. Now, in the resolution agreement, the dental practice does not admit any liability or any wrongdoing, and that's typical in resolution agreements that health professionals enter into with OCR when there's a problem under HIPAA. So, but the parties entered into a resolution agreement pursuant to which the dental practice also had to agree to take certain corrective steps under a corrective action plan that was incorporated into the resolution agreement. And what essentially the practice has to do going forward, and it's going to be monitored under the corrective action plan by OCR for 2 years, is it has to make sure that it doesn't post personally identifiable or individually identifiable protected health information online. It has to adopt policies and procedures that would ensure compliance with HIPAA, which apparently in this case the practice did not have those policies and procedures in a formal way prior to this. And third, it has to adopt a compliant notice of privacy policies that it would give to patients, which basically indicates, what information is taken and how individually identifiable protected health information can be distributed or used. And there's the regulations under HIPAA have a certain minimum content that privacy or notice of privacy policies have to contain, and it has to be written in plain English, and under this corrective action plan, the dental practice has to adopt and do that as well. So essentially 3 things. Don't violate HIPAA by putting protected health information, distributing that in an online or public way. Adopt policies and procedures that are compliant with HIPAA, and make sure that the notice of privacy policies that are given to patients complies with HIPAA as well. So what are the takeaways for your dental practice? First of all, if you get online reviews that are negative, or even somewhat negative, or whatever they are, even if they're positive, don't respond to the online reviews in any way that would disclose protected health information of patients. If you have a bad review, or you have a review that you want to deal with, you need to deal with it privately with the patient. Talk to them to deal with any concerns or issues they might have with your practice. But do not put out online or in any public way protected health information of patients. Just don't do it. It's a violation of HIPAA. Number 2, if you don't have if you have not adopted and you don't have formal policies and procedures to comply with HIPAA, you need to do that now. HIPAA requires that you have policies and procedures in place that are either in written form or in electronic form. You need to just not say our policy is to comply with HIPAA and not have anything formally adopted in writing or electronically. You need to make sure, if you don't have policies and procedures in place, you need to put them in place. Third, you need to make sure that your notice of privacy policy that you give to your patients complies with HIPAA. It needs to be written in plain English and have the minimum content required by HIPAA, which essentially goes to what information you get from the patient and how you use it or disseminate it. So you need to make sure you have that in place. And finally, I would say that you need to make sure that once you have your policies and procedures in place, you need to make sure that not only that you comply with your own policies and procedures, but that you train your staff in the policies and procedures, and that you have your staff sign off in a writing that they've received the policies and procedures and have been trained in them and they understand them, and if they have any questions that they would address those questions to whoever is in charge of HIPAA compliance in your practice. If you do those things, you will go a long way towards foreclosing a possible problem like the dental practice had in this particular case. Finally, I'll say that in this case, the resolution agreement that was entered into by the dental practice not only required the practice to adopt policies and procedures and be monitored by HHS for a couple of years, it also required the practice to pay a resolution amount to HHS Office for Civil Rights of $10,000. Now, that's $10,000 is still $10,000, but it's not as large an amount as you might think that a violation or a potential or alleged violation of HIPAA might entail. It was made clear in the resolution agreement that that amount was imposed and agreed upon between the parties based on the size of the dental practice, its finances, and its cooperation with OCR in the investigation. So don't take too much from the fact that the resolution amount was only $10,000. It could be more under other circumstances if there's not cooperation on an investigation, if the financial situation of a practice is different than it was in this case, or if the size of the practice is different than it was in this case. So in any event, there was a payment that was required under the resolution agreement by this practice because of the alleged violation of HIPAA. I think that's it for today. I hope that helps. It's very important that you refrain from responding to online reviews, that you have your policies and procedures that are HIPAA compliant in place, either in written or electronic form, that you have a notice of privacy policy that you give to your patients that's written in plain English and contains the minimum content that the regulations require, that you train your staff, and that you make sure your staff understands and has received copies of the policy. And also you need to, if you have a policy in place, or if you have policies and procedures in place, you can't just be one and done. You have to make sure that your policies and procedures are looked at periodically, at least annually, to make sure that if you need to review and revise or change or update anything in your office or in your policies and procedures, that you do that. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on the podcast to Legal Scrubs, and we'll see you next time.